Every day you'll walk past buildings that you may never notice, like this one, or this one. These aren't the flashy, well-known places like Flinders Street Station or State Library, but this doesn't make them any less interesting or important. When I say secret buildings, I don't necessarily mean those that are hard to find. What I'm looking for are those with a secret history, those with a story to tell that you might not have previously realised or known about. So join me in today's video as we look for 7 secret buildings right here in the heart of Melbourne. Many thousands of people regularly come through the Queen Victoria Market here in the north of the CBD. But I'll bet you've never noticed this little sign here that says MCC Electric Supply Department, 66,000 volts here on Terry Street. What this refers to is the Melbourne City Council or MCC electricity network. This was back when many inner city councils managed some of the electricity distribution and supply within their council boundaries. And of course this included Melbourne City Council. Perhaps the best known aspect of this was the Spencer Street Power Station, which operated into the 1960s. But back at the Queen Victoria Market and 70 to 74 Terry Street, this particular building is quite an old one as power infrastructure goes. It's on the side of this brick building that sort of sits out by itself, separate to the rest of the market. This was built in 1928 when the adjacent dairy hall for the market was also built, shortly after Melbourne City Council took over ownership of the wider Queen Victoria Market site. The late 1920s was also when the city's older direct current or DC power was being converted to the more efficient 3-phase power. This substation was expanded in 1935 and further altered in 1949 and remains here to this day. If you want to know more about municipal electricity, have a look at the blog post by Marcus Wong and research paper by Miles Pearce, which I've provided links to in the video description below. Towards the western end of the CBD at 621 to 633 Bourke Street is the former Bourke Street West Police Station. Opened in 1889, it continued to operate as a police station until 1976 when it was closed down. But unlike many of its neighbours, it was spared from demolition, and today it houses the Royal Melbourne Hotel, where some of its former police officers actually continue to meet at reunions held here. This 2-storey brick building incorporates limestone dressings from Warn Ponds near Geelong, and sits on bluestone footings. The site also has a bluestone cell block, parts of which continue to be used as a dining room. There's also a police barracks, sergeant's quarters and marshalling yard that were used for police operations. It seems to have been kept very busy through its years and has had a colourful history. In 1893, a Constable T. Curtin reported the station statistics for the month of November. This included 139 arrests for drunk and disorderly behaviour, 4 for unlawful assault and 3 for obscene language. In 1898, a daring group of burglars robbed the police station of £470 and a haul of jewellery, but these were quickly recovered after they attempted to dispose of their haul in a fire after they realised what they'd done. The station's location close to the docks and Spencer Street Station meant that it was involved in many cases involving sailors, ships and railways, such as a brawl in 1923, and these arrests in 1953 involving ongoing thefts of parcels from trains between Melbourne and Albury, by the offenders throwing them off the train between stations to then collect later. The Bourke Street West Police Station is the last building of its type that remains within the original government reserve bounded by Bourke, King, Collins and Spencer Streets, and it is the last intact police station in inner Melbourne from the 19th century. Although it was remodelled in 1925 to 26 following complaints about its dilapidated state, it's more or less the same as when it was first constructed. The VR crest remains on the front, and if you look closely above the entrance canopy, there is a stone sign that still reads Police Station. A little further east along Bourke Street is the former Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company building. This magnificent Gothic Revival tower was built in 1891 on the cusp of the 1890s depression, designed by the famous 20-man and Askew architectural firm. Amongst other things, they also designed the Finks building and the Block Arcade. This particular structure on Bourke Street, funnily enough, housed the Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company. They operated cable trams in central Melbourne for much of the late 19th century, eventually creating a monopoly on these routes. Formed in 1877, it existed until 1916, when its services, along with those of other private tram companies, were taken over by the state government to later form the Melbourne and Metropolitan Tramways Board, or MMTB. You can still see the company's logo on the building today, and when it's open you can also walk into the lobby and some of its corridors where you can admire some of the beautifully restored interior. There is also this old directory board that still shows offices for the MMTB. And there were even apparently some cable tram tracks under the street here, but they've since been removed. Up the other end of the city is the Nam Pon Soon Society building. This small innocuous structure on busy Little Bourke Street is actually the oldest surviving Chinese community building in Victoria. Built in 1861 in Chinatown, it served as a clubhouse for the Sam Yup Society, or the Three District Society, later becoming known as the Nam Pon Soon Society. This was one of many social clubs and organisations created by Chinese migrants to Australia in the 19th century, with most of those coming to Victoria associated with the gold rush. Its name is a combination of the first word of three districts in Guangdong province in the south of China, Nam Hoi, Pon Yu and Sun Duk, where many gold miners came from. The society and its building were largely funded by former miner and successful Chinese-Malaysian merchant Lo Kong Meng, who, although he was born in Penang and not Guangdong, nevertheless wanted to support the local community. Soon after the first years of the gold rush, many miners returned to China due to declining fines, and the increasingly harsh and discriminatory policies enacted against Chinese migrants. But some also stayed, and these societies were an essential support for them. This building was designed by Public Works Department architects Knight and Kerr, a famous duo who designed many other buildings in Melbourne, including Parliament House. It's seen as an early example of cross-cultural exchange, with the building's distinctively Chinese elements combining with a design from one of the most prominent architectural firms in colonial Victoria. It remains today at 200 to 202 Little Bourke Street, where the Nam Pon Soon Society still operates. On the corner of William Street and Bourke Street is a 41-storey skyscraper. While at first glance it might just look like another office tower, it is a unique and interesting building. Built between 1969 and 1972 as BHP House, it was Melbourne's first building to surpass 150 metres in height and was Australia's second tallest building at the time. Its name came from its position as the national headquarters of BHP, which, although based in Broken Hill in New South Wales, always maintained close links to Melbourne due to its ease of access to its railways and port facilities. BHP House was also built on the site of the famous Menzies Hotel. This luxurious complex that was first built in 1867 hosted many of the rich and famous through its history, including Mark Twain, H.G. Wells and Herbert Hoover. But by the 1960s it had lost its shine, as the old colonial luxury hotels faced near terminal decline, and the site was earmarked for demolition and the construction of BHP House. The company left the building in 1992, and today it is used for a variety of other office and commercial tenancies. The skyscraper is notable not only for being the tallest in Victoria at the time, but also the first building to use a type of self-sufficient power generation using BHP's natural gas. I was also told many years ago that it was Melbourne's first earthquake-proof building, but I can't find any sources to back this up, so please let me know in the comments if you know of any. Finally, moving off Bourke Street, we come to this grand old Georgian-style building at 162 to 168 Collins Street, in between Russell and Swanson Streets. It was the home of the famous Melbourne department store George's from 1908 until 1995. Prior to this, it was home to the Equitable Cooperative Society when it was first built in 1884. 2 years prior to its extension to Little Collins Street in 1891, it changed hands to the drapers George and George. But they soon expanded well beyond simple drapery. It sold coal, hosted Christmas events, and included a bicycle shop and cyclotorium that opened in 1896 on its first floor. Then it rebranded to George's Department Store in 1908. It first started with women's fashion and became a boutique high-end shop, renowned for its quality and design. Although it opened other branches later, this Collins Street address remained its flagship store. These grand stairs inside the entrance were added in 1939, and various other changes were made over the years. It firmly positioned itself as an upmarket store and became a symbol of Collins Street and the upper to upper middle class establishment. Its minimal interiors and attention to detail became renowned, and the loyal following it built helped it survive many events that killed off most other stores of its kind, like the Great Depression and the Second World War. Then in 1981 it was bought by David Jones, but it fell into decline and was eventually forced to close in October 1995. Many people retain fond memories of visiting or working here. The Historical Society, of which I'm a member, the Bourke Historical Society, have actually held 2 events celebrating George's this and last year, which were attended by hundreds of people, many of them former employees of the store. We sold out of tickets very quickly. Today the building is host to restaurants, offices and other retail uses, and you can walk through its main corridor during operating hours. Much of the interior and exterior has been restored, and its large windows, once famous for their clothes and window shopping opportunities, now play host to other wares, but are still here today. Finally, we move to a small laneway between Flinders Street and Flinders Lane called Highlander Lane, and this rather imposing bluestone structure at 11 Highlander Lane. This is known as Zander's store, and is one of the few surviving warehouses of the mid-19th century that were once common throughout the city. Built in 1854, it was well placed to service both maritime and railway traffic. Just across Flinders Street was the main port of the day on the Yarra River, and further west was Spencer Street Station and its trains linking it to the rest of Victoria and beyond. By the 1980s it became a private house and social club, and today it is known as Rutherglen House, possibly a nod to the wine shop that used to be there. There are some wonderful old lampposts and shrubbery out the front that you can also admire next to the building. Next door is another warehouse at number 11A, built some 50 years later between 1903 and 1910 in brick. And as a bonus, the former government bond store at 29 to 33 Highlander Lane is a little further along. This is also a significant, albeit younger building, that also marks the area's former status as a warehousing and light industrial area. That's all we have for today. I know there are many others around Melbourne and Victoria, so if you know of any other lesser known buildings with interesting stories, please let me know in the comments below. If you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much to those of you who've done so already, including those of you who've already signed up at my supporters portal over at members.philipmallis.com. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.